Hey everybody, thanks for joining me. I'm Sean from Somm Wine Club, and the wine I'm going to be tasting today is part of the January 2024 Somm Wine Club box. This is the 2021 Failla Willamette Valley Pinot Noir from Oregon. And if you've had any of Failla's wines before and you're confused about why this wine is from Oregon and not from California, we can explain. So Failla was started by a guy named Aaron Jordan back in 1998, originally as a project that was going to capture expressions of Sonoma Coast Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, and Syrah. At the time, he was working at Turley, working as the winemaker for Turley Wines in California, and wanted to do something a little different, something that would allow him to stretch his legs, use varieties and sites that he wasn't using for Turley, leverage his relationships and the kind of stuff that he had built in California over the previous 10 years working in California as a winemaker and a cellar rat. So Aaron has no formal training in enology. He's a dual archaeology and art history major that kind of fell into wine. Was while working as a wine buyer in Colorado. His roommate was from California and told him that he should go out and check out Napa Valley. So he got a job at Joseph Phelps, working in the cellar as a cellar rat, and through the relationships that he made while working there, he eventually connected with Helen Turley and then Larry Turley and Nayers. So all of these little bits and pieces kind of led to Aaron really wanting to make his own wine. So he went to Europe in 90, I think it was 92, 91, 92, early in the 90s. Did some stints in the Rhone Valley, actually working at a winery that we featured as another wine in the box at Jean-Luc Colombo in Cornas. So worked there for 2 vintages before coming back and actually taking on the winemaking position at Turley. So he's no longer the winemaker at Turley. He stopped that in 2013, I believe, and now is just the winemaker and owner of Failla, California, and as of 2015, Failla, Oregon. So back when the winery started in 98, it was doing just California. In 2001, they were given some fruit from the Goldschmidt vineyard in the Willamette Valley and made one vintage from that vineyard before realizing that the logistics of doing a wine in Oregon and wines in California was just, there was too much going on and it wasn't going to work. So a little time goes by, according to Aaron, lots of flights back and forth from California to Oregon in his little Cessna plane to figure out how he could continue to make wine in Oregon. In 2015, was offered some fruit from the historic Seven Springs vineyard. So Seven Springs, a like iconic vineyard in the Willamette Valley. Just getting the chance to work with that fruit is a huge opportunity, and that kind of kick-started the Oregon project once again. So this is the 2021. They've now had a few vintages in Oregon, some really challenging vintages in Oregon, and I've seen these wines improve dramatically from the first couple of vintages as well, just gaining that elegance and really taking on their own character and their own expression of the Willamette Valley. So this is coming from 4 vineyard sites in the northern Willamette Valley, kind of around the Van Duzer corridor and Eola Amity, including the Seven Springs vineyard. And I love Willamette Pinot. Those of you who know me personally know how much I treasure Oregon, both as a wine region and as a place. I have family there. It was some of the first places that I went to do wine tours on my own. So anytime I get to put an Oregon wine in the box, I'm really excited and happy. So let's taste it. 2021 was quite a departure from the previous vintage of 2020 being super, super hot. 2021 was a, I guess, new classic vintage for Oregon. There was that heat wave in June, July, that heat dome that we had here in the Pacific Northwest, that where temperatures were crazy down in Oregon, over 100 for 110 for a number of days. But that didn't really have a major impact on the fruit or the vintage itself because the fruit was still pre-veraison. It hadn't changed color yet. It wasn't as susceptible to heat damage as maybe some other crops would have been during that heat wave. But it ended up being a very elegant, warm, vibrant season that really kind of was easy to work with, according to a lot of Oregon winemakers. So the wines that come out of 2021, I really quite appreciate. This is lots of candied red fruit, red cherry, raspberry, red strawberry. There's this rose petal, red floral note. It's not a big wine. That's part of what makes Failla Failla. Aaron's wines from Failla are always very elegant, restrained, poised. They have grace. They're controlled. They're moderate in alcohol. Like, I would be surprised if this was over 13.5 alcohol, which I can't find it on here immediately, so I'll have to come back to that. But it just does have this elegance to it. $13.6, and that's pretty bang on for Oregon for a vintage like 2021. Whoa, that's good. There's this spice thing that comes through on the mid palate. You get like a little bit of kind of anise spice, pink peppercorn spice. A little bit of brambly, kind of darker fruit character, and just a slight bite of tannin. Being in Eola and around Van Duzer, where there is a little bit more wind, more exposure to the ocean, the fruit does take on a slightly spicier and slightly darker and more tannic profile than very like red fruited, silky Pinot Noir from Dundee or up in Chehalem. So I'm getting just a little bit of this stem. They're using about 25% whole cluster, which means they don't take the berries off of the clusters before they press them. They go whole into the press, and that gives a little bit of air and oxygen space within the clusters. It also allows for fermentation to start within the pressed material rather than all just being juice and fermenting as a mass. It kind of does some really interesting things with spice characteristics and moderates alcohol a little bit as well. Only 10% new oak here for about 9 months. Unfiltered, unfined before it goes into the bottle. They're not taking anything away, not trying to tidy things up. So there may be a little bit of sediment that develops in this wine as it ages. At this point, I don't imagine this is still a very young wine, and it is Pinot after all. Pinot doesn't throw a ton of sediment when it's super young, but just something to be aware of, that this wine can be a little not star bright. It doesn't have this like brilliant color to it. It's got a little touch of haziness, which is totally natural because the wine, like I said, is unfiltered and unfined. This wine is like spectacularly flexible with food just because of how much acidity and how much brightness there is in it. This time of year, I mean, you can do all kinds of things from sausages to fatty fish to roasts or things like that, where you're kind of cooking some of the fat down, take some of that acidity to help cut through the remainder of the richness of the dish. Classic pairings. I mean, especially if it was warmer weather, I would be outside cooking salmon on the barbecue, because that's what I always think about when I think about Oregon Pinot Noir. But there's no reason to do that you can't do like an oven roasted salmon dish with potatoes and green vegetables. Just very simple, classic, like Pacific Northwest cuisine. Or go a little bit more elevated and do something with a mushroom or dashi, something where you're getting all of these umami characters, the saltiness, the brininess of the ocean. Lots of fun. Great winemaker with such great pedigree. and an opportunity to try a winemaker who has worked in so many different terroirs and so many different vineyards and really has a big picture view of how wine can be made specific to each individual site. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy the Failla Willamette Valley Pinot Noir, and we will see you guys all next time.